I've been on a really big downswing recently, so what I've decided to do today is to just look at all the hands that I got stacked in this year so far. So let's just jump right into it. I have ace queen offsuit here on the button. I get 3-bet by the big blind and I jam. This might look a bit weird here, but I know this is GTO. I get called by pocket jacks, so this one's fine. No problem with this one. Pocket queens here, I 3-bet a low jack raise, I get 4-bet, I call the 4-bet. Here on this flop, I face a very big bet, which looks like it's aces or kings, but could also be something like ace king or so that you would like to get me out of the pot. So I just shove here and I lose to kings. I think this is unfortunate but standard as well. This next one here, we 3-bet ace queen off in the small blind again, and we got a cold caller here in the big blind. We have ace queen on queen 3 deuce. We c-bet fairly small here, so normally we could go small or big, but I don't really know how to deal with a cold caller because this is not a GTO for sure. We get called. Now I go bigger here, he calls again, and on this river I just decide to jam, which is not quite a pot-sized bet. And the thing is, at this point, yeah, I can be against aces or kings that slow played it, but I could also be against maybe king queen suited or pocket jacks that are stubborn or so I think it's fine. And I get unlucky once again here against pocket kings. This next one, I open 5-6 suited, I get 3-bet. This is definitely a standard call. On this flop here, when he bets so small, I decided to peel. And I think this was a mistake in hindsight. So this is probably the first mistake of the day here. I think here I should just fold because all I have is a couple of backdoors, but I have the 2 undercards, and it might be difficult to get anything here out of this one, even if we hit our backdoors. I think I would, or I'm sure I would have folded if I had been out of position, but being in position, I thought I could peel, but as I said, it was a mistake. Now here we actually turn a pretty good hand, and unfortunately and annoyingly, he makes it quite big, but we need 27% equity here, and this is roughly what we have. Not quite, sorry. Because our outs are not clean either, but we have 8 outs, so that's about 17% here. And 17%, but we still have about 60 big blinds behind, so there is scope to get some more money out of him. So at this point, I think calling is fine. I consider jamming for a second, but I think it's probably not great because he double barreled and he barreled big here. And yes, he could, of course, have something like ace queen that we would fold off here, but I think his range is quite strong, so that's why I wanted to just call. And now we get a bittersweet river here because we have our straight, but unfortunately he jams, and this is not great when the flush comes in. However, there is nothing we can do here at this point but call. I mean, we didn't call the big turn bet to fold now. So I call, and yikes, he has 8-7 of diamonds. I did not expect to see this hand here, so this is how we got stacked in this one. And I think the only mistake that I really made was on the flop, and there was a small mistake there. However, yeah, on the turn and on the river, I don't think I could really have done anything differently. So let's move to the next one. We open pocket nines under the gun. There are 3 callers. Oh yeah, I remember this hand. I go for a c-bet here. Normally I wouldn't, because it's such a multi-way pot and I don't really have a lot of bluffs here. However, in this case, I thought if I get so many callers, and villain 5 in the cutoff clearly seems to be a recreational player, so I went here with a c-bet. I should have gone bigger in hindsight though, and we get called by the big blind. When the 7 comes in, I go for another bet here. If the board weren't as connected, I would have gone bigger, even an over bet here, but because the board is quite connected, I chose to go about 3/4, and we get called again. And on this king river, when he checks again, I kind of felt pretty safe here. I was fairly certain that I had the best hand, and I thought, well, maybe he has a 10 or so, so I wanted to overbet just because the flush draw missed, and I thought I could be called by a 10. And then unfortunately this happened here. He jammed, and I need to be good 26% here to call. And I thought in game, well, if he has pocket 3s or pocket 7s and does it with those hands, but in hindsight, I don't think he would do it with those hands. Firstly, because he might have checked raised the flop with pocket 3, so we have to discount that to some extent. And then, did he really call pocket 7s? It's not impossible to call pocket 7s on the flop, but then again, he would probably have check raised them on the turn. So by the time we get to the river, I don't think he check raises or check jams anything worse for value. So I can only see a bluff, which is very unlikely, especially at these stakes, especially against an overbet, or a straight, and I didn't give it enough thought, and I called, and indeed he had the straight here. He had the open ender on the flop and on the turn, and then got there on the river. So another one that was very unlucky, but I could have saved myself a little bit of money here by just folding, by bet folding the river. However, I still got unlucky in this hand. Next one, ace king suited. We get 3-bet in the big blind. I 4-bet, and he jams. And no, sorry, he doesn't jam. He goes 51 into 70 for over my 4-bet, and I think I should fold here. This was another mistake. I then decided to get it in here. And I even misclicked here. I made it 85 accidentally. I just wanted to jam, but I didn't, and so he did it for me, and we lose to pocket aces. And I think this one, yeah, I don't know. Like, my 4-bet I think is fine, but once he 5-bets to half of my stack, no, I wasn't sure at the time because he was 250 big blinds deep, so I thought maybe he didn't realize that he was betting half of my stack, but basically that is an all-in there. And an all-in where he doesn't go all in, that's not ace-king most likely, so it is aces or kings or sometimes rarely queens, and against that range I'm just not doing very well, so I should have folded even though it seems nitty, but this was clearly another mistake of mine. Here, pocket queens, I just jam over this guy because, oh yeah, sorry, this was, yeah, I didn't see that. The small blind 3-bet, and I think this is an easy jam here. I shouldn't 4-bet. Small, this is fine, I'm happy with it, but unfortunately, once again, I got called by pocket kings, and not only that, but he hits quads on the flop. So another queens versus kings situation. Can't do that much about that. Here I 3-bet ace queen suited, and we have a beautiful flop here. We go for a big c-bet as we should, and then we get min clicked here, and this is actually quite alarming. Now I would never fold here, obviously. We have top trips in a 3-bet pot, but I mean, what is he check min raising here if not pocket nines? Yes, at this point, okay, it could still be merged, something like jacks or tens. He just wants to get me to fold maybe ace king or ace jack or something like that. So I call, it's fine. But when the king comes and he now follows up with a half pot bet, I still have to call because I could hit another queen or an ace, or maybe the board pairs in a different way with a nine or a king or whatever, and we could win. So I still think it's fine, but I think at this point, tens and jacks are not in his range anymore, unless he has exactly jack 10, which is a straight, in which case I still have to call here, hoping to hit both on the river, but yeah, I'm not too confident. And now when he jams on this river, again, it seems incredibly nitty to fold ace queen suited here, but in this pool and such a tight player, he's an 18-15, I just don't think he has a lot of bluffs, and I'm usually up against pocket nines or of straight here, or slow played pocket kings, because I don't even think slow played pocket aces would play like this. So silly as it sounds, this is a fold here on the river, and again I made the mistake of calling and I get stacked by a boat. Pocket jacks this time, we open, we get 3-bet on the button. There is a cold caller in the small blind, and with all this I wanted to jam here again because I would have to make it quite big here anyway, and then I can just jam. The 3-bet from the button is not necessarily strong, and the small blind flat here could be anything. And what does the small blind call with? Well, he had ace king. Okay, so that's fine. We still we ran it twice and we lost both of these here, so that's just my luck this January so far. Here we have ace king ourselves. We 3-bet, get called, ace 3 deuce. This is actually not necessarily a range bet as many people would think. Ace baby baby is actually close to a range check, which is what I did here. And then on this 10 river, I went for another sneaky check, and I wanted to let him bet something because I thought if he has ace queen or ace jack or something like that, I would still get his money here, and that's what I did. I check raised here, he called, and now we have top two pair on this river in a 3-bet pot. Nothing else to do than to jam, and we get snapped off by a set of tens. I mean, once again, I was miles ahead on the flop. Then he hit his miracle card on the turn, and then not only that, but to add insult to injury, on the river I get my top 2 pair, so no way I can get away from this one. This is definitely just a cooler. Here, ace 5 suited is a 3-bet. We get cold called again, this time on the button and in early position calls as well. We flop amazingly here. We have middle pair, an overcard, and a flush draw. So I was thinking whether to even bet here, but I thought I have a lot of equity and I bet my hand small. Now I get a raised from villain here, and this other villain just jams, and this is a really, really tricky spot here. I try to think what they could have, and I was thinking it's unlikely that either of them has a set, which means that if they're both all in with some over pairs and I have a flush draw plus I have a potential overcard and the 5 is most likely good, so I had to call there. Button calls as well, and let's see what developed here. I don't actually remember. Oh yeah, okay, so he did have the set here, which I thought was quite unlikely, and this gentleman or lady here had a weaker flush draw and the open ender, so I was actually not in bad shape here. given the equities that we had, and consider it was a three-way all-in, and I think I was about 30% here, so it just didn't work out for me, but I think I played this one just fine. Ace 10 suited, we 3-bet a low jack raise and get 4-bet. Actually, I want to very quickly look this one up. So it was under the gun raised, hijack, 3-bets, under the gun, 4-bets. And what should hijack do? Okay, ace 10 suited is a mix between folding and calling. Because he made it so big, though, it's probably a fold. And I don't know, wow, why did I jam here? I think it was because, yeah, this villain, it was the third time out of 6 possibilities that he 4-bet, and I thought this is just someone who's clicking buttons, so that's why I did not want to call or fold here. It was an exploitative play, but didn't work out well because he called and he had pocket jacks. Now, I don't think it's the worst of plays, and he was quite aggressive here, still with his pocket jacks. He shouldn't 4-bet them too often, but he is an aggressive player, and he didn't fold them once I jammed against him then. But I don't think it was a terrible jam on my side, but probably not the best one either. 7-6 suited, I go for a call here. This is a hand that I sometimes will 3-bet, but here I went for a call. Flopping amazing here. We have an open-ender and a flush draw. So at this point, I just lead here because it's really good for my range and it's not that great for the cutoff. So here I would definitely want to lead pocket 4s or pocket 8s if I have them, even pocket 9s, which I could have the way it's been played, or 9-8 suited or ace-9 suited or something like that. So I'm okay with that. I get check raised. Then there is a, not check raised, sorry, I get raised. Then there is a call here in the small blind. I now jammed because I have so much equity here that I thought I can jam here. In hindsight, I'm not entirely sure because I'm risking a lot here. If I look at it, I'm risking over 90 to win 22, but yeah, I could get folds here. If neither of them has a set, I'm quite likely to get a fold, unless possibly here an overpair might call. But I have so much equity against that actually I'm okay with this jam. And it is the small blind who calls me here. We hit our flush, and unfortunately queen 8 of the same suit. Yeah, I mean, he had a flush draw and middle pair, so I can see why he wouldn't go anywhere. Another one where I think I got really unlucky here with a distribution, but I don't think I could really do much else. Although, yes, my 7-high flush is not amazing to jam with, but what are the odds that the small blind shows up with a better flush in this situation? Clearly, he's not the best player either if he cold calls in the small blind with queen 8 suited. Okay, off to the next one. Pocket queens. We 3-bet. We get 4-bet. And that's another one of those. When we get 4-bet to 25 here, I think I maybe should just call. Instead, I jammed and I got called. Surprise, surprise, by kings. This is the third time now in short succession that we've run our queens into kings. But again, I don't think I can ever get away from it, because even if I call the turn here, but let's just have another look at the solver. This is actually the same situation. Pocket queens are, well, pocket queens are tiny bit of a jam, mostly a call. But if I call here, it's still the same thing, kind of. Like he will c-bet, and then I will get it in on this board here without an ace, without a king. I just can't fold. So it's another one that I don't think I could have done much differently. Right, here ace-9 suited, a bit on the loose side to 3-bet here, but this player, I just saw that he had folded 4 out of 4 against 3-bet after he raised, so I thought this could yield a profit straight away. We get called, we have second pair, and I can either go big or check here. I think in hindsight I should just check here, probably with second pair, because I don't really want to go big here and I can't go small on this board. So I think I should have just checked, but I decided to go big, although I don't think it's a massive mistake, because we could still get called by 5s through 8s here by the imposition player, although he should actually fold those hands, but I think that many players would still call them. Now we hit 2-pair here on the turn, and I think now there is not going, we can't go anywhere. Yes, the flush has come in, but we still have to continue betting. I bet 20, maybe I could have gone slightly smaller with the flush completing. And on this river here, I decided to jam. Now, what can I get called by that we beat weaker 2 pairs, which there aren't many of? So actually, in hindsight, I'm thinking like, what do I beat here that calls me? Because he shouldn't have called too many ace-x on the flop, and with the flush being there and an ace and a king and a jack, I actually don't think that I will get called by anything that I beat now that I can see it. So this one is a big one to take note of, because I was convinced that I had a really good hand here in a 3-bet pot with ace-9 with two pair on this board, but I actually don't, because the straight is out there with the queen-10, the flush is out there, and he could still have a set or better 2-pair if he floated ace-king on the flop, or he has ace-jack, or maybe even king-jack, although he might fold that on the turn. So we get called by, what is it, 10-9 of clubs. Wow, this is not a hand I would have expected, and I got really unlucky once again, but I still overplayed this hand. This is actually a check fold on the river, as silly as it sounds, but now that I've analyzed it, I still think that it's a bet on the turn, because he has a lot more than just flushes, and I have 2-pair at that point. However, on this river, especially because the king also completes the open-ender with queen-10, so this should have been a check fold rather than a bet on the river. Ace-king this time on the button, we 3-bet, we get called, queen-jack-5, I could either check or big bet. I think this is decent enough to big bet, which I do. I get called. Here I went for another big bet because I thought I could still get him off maybe a jack or pocket 9s, 10s, 7s, 6s, something like that. So I don't mind this one, especially because I do have outs. A 10 is the nuts, and an ace or a king might also win the hand. So I don't mind. And then on this river, I must have gone for the shove here, yes. I think it's not terrible to go for the shove, because I have all the overpairs, I have pocket queens, I have pocket jacks. I can even do it with pocket 5s or pocket 8s. I would play like this as well, potentially, even though I might check pocket 8s on the flop, but sometimes I would still bet them. So I do have all of those hands, but I still think that after he called those 2 barrels, it's not super likely that he will fold, and I need about 60% fold equity here, which I'm not sure I'm getting, although it is probably close because some players would even fold a hand like Queen 10 here or King Queen or something like that. But this player had 10-9 for the straight, which is very unlucky. But again, he flopped an open ender and then just hit it on the turn, and he played it passively. So this is a hand where I could have gotten away from it because basically I only had ace high and I tried to bluff him off something. This was definitely a triple barrel gone wrong. Pocket queens, 3-bet here, and we get cold 4-bet by the small blind. Now this is not great, and I just jammed here because I thought that players do 4-bet cold too much with jacks and tens, although they should not do that, especially tens is a fold in the small blind here, but I thought he might have a lot of jack and a lot of ace king and some ace queen, although we block that. I don't think I can really fold here. I should have just called, though. I don't know why I jammed. And what are we up against? Aces for a change. So 3 times queens against kings, 1 time queens against aces, and I'm pretty sure that in this entire time I did not have it the other way round at all, at least never so that we went all in. But maybe, as I said, I might have overplayed my queens here. But then again, let's just move back to see, would I have gotten away from this one? I might have with a king there. Maybe I would have folded on the turn or something like that. But either way, I would still have lost a big chunk of my stack no matter what. Here, ace king, we open, we get 3-bet, we 4-bet, we get 5-bet jammed. And again, these stakes, this is probably not a hand that we beat now, so I fully expect to be up against aces or kings, although it could be queens or jacks, and I think at this point I don't want to fold, and solver doesn't fold, so I call, and we run it twice, and we lose it twice against pocket kings. Now we have pocket kings ourselves. And we 3-bet, we get called. On this flop here, I either go big or I check. If I check aces, I'm a primary candidate. Then kings, queens through nines, I would always c-bet here. When he now bets pot, I just call. My plan was to check raise, but when he bets pot here, I thought now I got him with some weaker overpair maybe, or even a bluff. So I check, he checks here, and on this river I just jam it because I thought, well, now he might have queens or tens or nines, and if he has queens, he would probably still bet, but with the other hand, he would just check back. And so I thought that's the best way of getting the money. I did get all the money in, but he turned the jacks here. Absolutely incredible. Once again, the bad luck that I've had here, and again, there is no way getting away from this hand. Pocket queens, we 3-bet in the small blind. We get 4-bet now in the what's this, hijack, and look at that size. It's more than a third of his stack. I don't know what to make of it. He clearly doesn't want me to just call there, so I thought, well, it might be ace king here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's aces or kings, but once he makes it through 36 there rather than something more normal like 22, I can't call there. I either have to jam or fold, so I didn't want to fold, so I called, and he had ace-9 suited. Oh, Jesus. Okay, well, then this was very well played actually on my side and terribly played on his side, but I just got the worst of it. Ace Jack this time, we raise and get called. Blind versus blind battle here on this flop. I basically check range. I face this bet here. I just call with my 2 overs and the gutter. On the queen here, he bets again, and he doesn't bet big, he bets pretty small, and at this point I just thought that he might have some pocket pair below the queen that I could get him to fold. I don't know if I really love that, but I thought I also have the jack of clubs, so if the clubs come in, I could bet there. Plus, I could get called by a flush draw still, but he calls, and now we do get the flush in there, but also the queen pairs. And at this point, I went for this massive overbet, and I don't like this one in hindsight because the issue is that what am I wrapping? Yes, 2s, 4s, and 5s basically, but I wouldn't bet that big with a queen at this point. So if I had ace queen instead of ace jack, I would only have gone b66 or something like that here, possibly even only half pot, because I don't think I would get called by a lot worse. And by making it so big, I basically really telegraph that I have a rare boat or a bluff, and blind versus blind. I have so many hands here, and I barely filtered with that small bet on the flop that I have way too many bluffs, and especially because the diamond flush draw bricked, that's another reason for him to call even with a bluff catcher. So he did. I remember he tanked for quite a while, and then he called, and he only has pocket threes, and this is exactly the type of hand that I was hoping to fold out on the turn with my check raise. However, not the pocket threes, obviously, because that's an open ender, but I thought maybe something like pocket sixes, sevens, eights, something like that. And unfortunately, here I really made a big blunder on the river. This is something I actually know that I shouldn't make, but I don't know, in that moment I just got carried away of trying to get him to fold out the type of hand that he had. 4-3 suited. What's happening there? 4-3 suited, we raise, and now we face a 3-bet here, and I normally would fold this one, but he made it so small. He only went 9.8. Normally you'd go like 12 or 13, but this is a very tight player, although that said I only had 17 hands on him, so I called here, but I'm not super happy about it. But then we flop really beautifully here, and once he bets small, I think even though I am in position, I can bet here, or I can raise here, because I just want to get it in. I'm happy to even get it in again. Not happy, but I'm not. It's not terrible to get it in against an overpair here, because we have so much equity here with our open ender and the no, sorry, it's not an yeah, it is an open ender. Yeah, sorry, it's an open ender and the flush draw that I thought I want to do that, but he calls. Now on this brick turn, I just, or it's not exactly a brick turn, but most likely a brick turn because it doesn't have 9-6 or 6-4. So I wanted to take my equity now, because at this point I don't want to get it in anymore on the turn because I'm not getting the right odds. And then unfortunately we break here, and on this river, I mean, we've got 4 high, so I thought that I could get him off something, but I think I was wrong here, because I don't think he would have called the flop raise with a hand like ace king or something like that he would fold now. He is supposed to, but I don't think this type of player would do that. So I think in theory this is not a bad play here with my 4 high, but on the other hand, I don't think this particular villain, who seems to be a nit, would have ace king in his range here on the river, and he called with pocket queens. Queen jack suited, we 3-bet a button raise, get called. Another great flop for our range and for our hand, pretty decent. Range betting, third here, get called. Now we hit the jack at this point. I went small again because I was thinking at the time that I could still get called maybe by eights or nines or tens if I make it small enough here, and also I have second pair now on top of the flush draw. The only thing is now, if I make it so small, I'm kind of telegraphing my hand again, because if I had a really good king here or better, or something like really polarizing, like just a air hand, I would have gone much bigger. So this was probably not the best. I know why I did it, and it made sense in the moment, but I think in hindsight this might not have been that great. And here on this river, this is check fold now, and instead I went for another small bet, and this is just stupid here. I honestly don't know why I did this. Like, this is the classic example of an overplayed hand, of a polarization mistake, where I do not think that I can get called three barrels, albeit small ones, by a hand like pocket nines or something like that. So I now face a jam and I have to fold, and it would have been a fold anyway. And I guess I just wanted to block bet here because I didn't want to get jammed off my hand, which happened anyway, ironically. But the thing is, like, I just don't think I get called by a pocket pair or by anything weaker than a jack here. So this was a bit silly. Ace king, we open, get 3-bet, and we jam. I think in these positions this is okay, but we do run into aces. Okay, nothing I can do there. King jack suited, I have to call the 3-bet here. Another beautiful flop for our hand. And look at this now. I mean, he just jams, but yes, she was short stacked. Okay, that's why. And at this point, obviously, I have to call with top pair and flush draw. We hit our flush, and how do we lose this one? We lose to the better flush. Wow, this is incredible. We block his flush and we have top pair, and we still manage to lose it. But yeah, this one was well played. I don't mind. All good with this. Here we 3-bet ace king, get called on ace 3-3, big bet or check. In this case, I go for the big bet. I get called on the 10 turn. I could continue because it's an overcard now, but at this point, once he calls my big bet, he probably has something better. He must have some sort of a pair here. I still went for a third pot here, not expecting him to fold, and unfortunately the river is also not great, because like any pair that he has now, he will just most likely not fold, so that's why I gave up. He now bets, and I have nothing to do here but to fold. Ace deuce suited here, we open blind versus blind, we have bottom pair. With a king there, I'm okay to range bet this, so he calls. Here I have an easy check now once I get called, and he now bets fairly big, and I don't know, like this is actually not my A game. I don't know. I was thinking, yeah, it's blind versus blind, but I have bottom pair here. The flush has just come in, and he's gone 2/3. I don't know. Was this a misclick, or I was not paying attention, because I would not normally call this. And now on this river, this is like really annoying. He now goes third pot here, which is like insulting. He just shouldn't do that against a player that's capable of check raising as a bluff or something like that. And this is exactly what I did. I mean, at this point I had given up, but I knew my deuce is not good when he bets so small here on this river. So I just like don't know what I did now, but I just thought let's just try to check raise this guy off whatever nonsense he has, because he probably doesn't have a king. He might have a 5 or a 10, or I don't know what he's value betting here. So tiny on the river in position, but I got snapped up by, okay, it was 2 pair, 3-5, and he bet that because the flush was in there and he still wanted to get some value, so that's why he raised there. But still, I just think I absolutely butchered this hand here, and I lost a lot more than I should have. Basically lost half a stack here with bottom pair on blind versus blind. But anyway, this was not great. Ace queen off here. We, oh my god, why did I, yeah, so this is the button 3-bet here, and the button is very active as a 3-better, so this is why I 4-bet as a bluff here, and we get called. And now I, on this board here, I don't have many jacks, that's a problem, but I basically only have aces, kings, queens, ace king, and a little bit of a bluff, something like ace queen in my range here, but I can go for a quarter bet here, pot bet here. I get called, and now I was just like pretending that I have aces or kings here, and I do have 2 overs, so if he happens to have the jack or 10-0, so I do have some outs. And it's rare that players slow play aces or kings on the pre-flop there, so I thought let's just pretend here, but it didn't work out. And then on the river I checked, and he now jammed. He clearly had something here, because I doubt that he turned whatever he had into a bluff on the river, or he didn't, but whatever it was, he beat me here. I just can't see him having had king queen or something like that. So yeah, this is it. Not too many mistakes, but there were quite a few mistakes in there that I made where I was really not on top of my game, unfortunately. And now I know why I've had such a bad run. It's mostly because of coolers, but not only. I have made a few mistakes there, and I have to learn from them. I have to just be there in the moment and do the proper hand reading much better on the flop, and the turn, because that's what I lacked doing in this one.